And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Esports World Cup EWC 2025 StarCraft 2 day number 1. We're nearing the tail end of the broadcast. We have 2 matches left. 2 matches left to go. We have a ZvP between Classic and Rogue, and we also have a PvT between Showtime and Cure. So we have 2 matches remaining here. Oh boy, purely best of 3s. No elimination matches yet, at least not on the group stage. We'll be getting there, of course. That'll be tomorrow. That'll be for tomorrow's broadcast. Again, 4 days of StarCraft 2, and we will soon jump into that PvZ. This is going to be a rematch of the grand finals of what? Of GSL Season 2. Of course, if you were here on the channel, we did cover it. We did cast all of GSL Season 1 and Season 2 here on the CranKy Ducklings. And again, it was very intense finals. I say intense finals, it was also a little bit one note when it comes to the overall styles from our players. Classic, you can make an argument he has the best late game PvZ in the world. Better than Showtime, better than MaxPax, better than Hero, better than any other Protoss player out there. We, of course, did showcase Classic against Cyril at DreamHack Dallas, and even on online tournaments as well. Classic, he is looking like a beast, at least in the late game, if he can get there. That's the big thing here, as Rogue, I would say, is one of the more aggressive Zerg players out there. If you're watching the GSL series, and more importantly, if you're watching Rogue versus Hero in the semifinals of GSL, that was a short series. If you're watching the semis, I know that a lot of people have been looking more to Classic more so than Hero, just because Hero's been playing in less public events and less public tournaments. But if you're watching that series, how did Rogue beat Hero? He cheesed the hell out of him. It was a best of 5. It was a best of 5, very short. It was like a 15-minute series, just all in after all in after all in. Rogue, he cheesed the hell out of Hero, and likewise, Rogue, he also brought that aggression against Classic as well, where Rogue's win condition was end the game early. End the game early. Go for these timing attacks. Go for these 2 base all-ins, 3 base all-ins. That has been the go-to for Rogue. But we're about to hear from our players, I believe. We might just hear from them. Yes, as both Classic and Rogue are getting ready, they are setting up. So that's the dynamic that we're going to be expecting here, is Classic to be the defender and Rogue to be the aggressor. Now, this doesn't mean that Classic he's not like a Demour, right? He's not like, you know, Showtime. He's not purely a defensive player. He thrives in the late game. That's where he is best. That's where he's strongest. But he can go for earlier timing attacks. He can be aggressive himself. So do not count Classic out. Do not be too greedy against him. Don't cut corners. Otherwise, Classic can punish you, can shut you down, he can break you. So that is definitely something to bear in mind, is that Classic, he can be a little bit more aggressive when he needs to be. Not as chaotic as Hero. I would say that Hero has stronger early to mid game than Classic in PvZ. That I will give to Hero. But Classic can still be quite diverse, and if he sees an opening, he will go for Glaives, right? He'll go into Glaives, he'll go for an early charge, storm timing as well. Like, Classic will be in your face if he sees an opportunity. It's more of those things where, likewise, he's a very opportunistic player, where if he sees you being passive, if he sees you being defensive, what will he do? He'll throw it in a Stargate. He'll throw it in a Stargate, a Fleet Beacon, and he'll get ready for Sky Toss. He's happy to embrace that slower style. Whereas Hero, he's typically less so willing to do so. Like, he's typically more aggressive, more active, and he's less willing to throw down a Fleet Beacon and to slow the game down into something like Sky Toss. So two very different approaches. Here we go. Let's go Rogue. I want to see one of those late games where he spams Overseers and Changelings. That is typically strictly for TVZ. But yes, we are familiar with that style, like the Mass Overseer. That's usually against Terran. So if we get to see Rogue against Terran, that's where he's at his best in the late game. But typically here in PvZ, Rogue, usually his goal is to end it early. To try to kill the Protoss as quickly as possible. That's typically how he's been approaching this. Of course, in preparation for EWC, players I'm sure have been cooking and getting ready for other styles, other builds. From what we've seen so far, like, more or less players are playing how they usually do. Like, we have seen some more unique openers and builds, but like the overall play style hasn't really changed at all. We don't really expect that to change. Players that don't usually like redefine themselves and completely change course with their preferred playstyle coming into a tournament, but they can come up with some unique builds nonetheless. And I mean, again, like, we're expecting cheese and aggression and all-ins out of Rogue. Might see some that we haven't seen before, but like, still, that's kind of like the within line of what we're expecting. But here we go, as the players are getting ready. Terran 1 theme, such a bop. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Shout out to the brutal OST. As a reminder, it's after this series we'll be jumping into Showtime versus Cure. That'll be after this matchup. As I'm sure we're about to hear from the players themselves for a moment. At least I hope so. Bearing in mind this is the first series that we're covering of Group B. And again, Serral versus Hero Marine is going to be happening off stream. It's going to be happening on the B stream. For that series, I do favor Serral. I do favor Serral coming into his match versus Gabe. But best of luck to Gabe. Best of luck. Hope he's able to have a good showing and maybe even cause an upset. Best of luck to El Grande Gabe. Just catching up. Catching up. Being on the list is a form of military service for in a lot of places. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Like same in Korea. Same in Korea. What is that next to the Pepsi and next to the Mountain Dew? There's like the Pepsi and Mountain Dew on one side, and then there's like a bottle on the left. It's like a branded like tumbler or something. I can't quite make out what the logo is. I'm not familiar enough with the sponsors. What is that? What is that? Are you unable to rebroadcast the audio? Oh, we can rebroadcast the audio. I'm probably going to do that for the final day. I'm probably going to rebroadcast the audio for day 4. But for day 1 and day 2, I'm happy to just cast. Just jump in. Then we'll take a backseat for day 4, maybe day 3 as well. Maybe day 3 we'll also take a backseat, and we'll have more of like a react stream to the casters. But we do have both. We have access to the clean feed and a dirtier feed. The clean feed without their audio and a feed with their audio. So make sure you didn't think we could hear them talking. Yeah, all good, all good. All good. Oh, as we have our vetoes, let's go. We have our vetoes. We're getting rid of Ultra Love, Pylon, Leylines, Lost Fantasy, Persephone, and Torches. We're going to be diving into, oh my god, we have all the big maps here. We have Maganatha, Tokamak, and Incorporeal. Those are the 3 largest maps in the map pool. Huh. Interesting. That Rogue, he got rid of some of the smaller maps instead. Peculiar here. So because of that, again, my eyes are mainly going to be on Rogue here. My eyes are on Rogue. You can still go for all-ins on these maps, 100%. You can still go for some all-ins. You can still go for timing attacks. There's a lot to get into, especially when it comes to Maganatha and Incorporeal, especially, referring to how exposed some of these maps are. So we'll see if Rogue can break the 3rd base of Classic. That's what I'm going to be looking for when it comes to their matchup, when it comes to their series, but we'll get into it when it comes to the games themselves. But yeah, those are the 3 largest maps. Maganatha, Tokamak, and Incorporeal. Let's go. Let's go. But just because they're large doesn't mean that they're as defendable as other maps, for sure. That's the case for Tokamak, less so for Maganatha and Incorporeal. Oh my god, Kalaris, calm down. Jesus. Also, shout out to the other co-streamers. Unlike last year, this year we have, I think, M. Canning, the Can Man. He's been doing some co-streaming. Upper Tree Sal as well, All-Made Sal. Really cool to see. Hopefully they're able to commit for the other days as well. And of course the other language casters. We have Enki el Hermoso in Spanish. Oh.
I mean, you told us 3, but we got 4 instead, Kalaris, but it's fine. You can't count. That's why you're on the endless list. Anyways, boys and girls, 2 matches down from the group stage. Both of them going 2-0. Is that going to be the story for the rest of the games here for the group stage? I don't know, but things are hitting up, Seltzer.
Things are about to get a little hotter too as this battle kicks off. It's going to be a great one between Veritas Pros Classic and Falcons Rogue.
I didn't even know where that came from. He just threw some shade at Kalaris.
Classic qualified
Jesus.
at DreamHack Dallas and then picked up a first place finish at GSL Season 2. So he must be feeling good heading into this.
And his opponent, none other than Rogue, set up for a salty run back from GSL Season 2 Finals. He has a chance now to reclaim that dub.
These two have a high-stakes history, but there's more about to be written. So let's hand it on over to the casters for our Saudi National Bank match of the day.
Oh my god, oh, Rogue, what's happening? Suddenly gets taken away. Hi. But here we go, we're setting up, we're getting ready here for a Classic versus Rogue. As I mentioned, this is going to be a rematch from the finals of GSL Season 2, where they did have a very intense back and forth, went all the way to the ace match. Once again, it is a shame that these are only best of 3s. Like, I would love to see more out of these players. Give best of 5s, Pappy. We'll get there tomorrow, I know, we'll get there tomorrow. So it's such a shame. Because it's only a best of 3, honestly, this could go either way. I do lean towards Classic, I do favorite Classic in this series, but because it's a best of 3, anything can happen. I can see Rogue winning this, I can see Classic win this, I can see this going to the ace match, I can see this being one-sided, so we'll see how our players are looking, and really a lot of our eyes are on Rogue. We've been seeing so much of Classic as of late in all these online tournaments. I mentioned before that some players have been hiding builds and playing in less, other players have been playing in more. Classic, he's one of those players who have been playing in everything, Rogue less so. And Rogue, he's often one that does actually think outside the box, and he does come out with some more unique play from time to time. We saw that last year in Star Zagora when we saw Rogue come out with his new style against Terran with the Mass Overseer, Mass Changeling Nidus play. We'll see if he has something different against Protoss. I was mentioning earlier how we do expect all-ins and aggression out of Rogue. I still stand by that. It was, I want to say, last year where Rogue was very different, where Rogue was a lot more macro oriented, where his win condition was to also, I guess, kind of like how in ZvP as well, would go into Lurker. He would be very greedy tech-wise, tech up into Lurkers, go into Nidus, and go for Lurker Nidus play. We saw a lot of that last year, but less so this year. Like, the meta has shifted, the meta has changed, and Rogue has kind of adjusted accordingly. We'll see if it changes again, though. We'll see if he has a different approach. As Rogue, he's back. Here we go. They brought him back, baby. They brought him back. Este Rogue. See if I can recognize any of the other admins. I saw Kashim earlier, I'm pretty sure. I saw Kashim. I haven't seen Iskar. I don't know if he's there. I haven't yet to see Iskar. Have seen Zatros, I believe. But I'm not too familiar with all the different admins. There are only a handful of them. But my eyes are open for Sinistro. I know Sinistro's there. I don't know if he's going to be on stage at any point, but my eyes are open for Sinistro and for Iskar. For sure. Speaking of, hello. Is that Sinistro? We didn't get to see his face. No. I think that's him. I'll keep my eyes open. Oh, no, that's not Sinistro. Never mind. Never mind. Likewise, we haven't seen any crowd shots yet. I know that for day one, the crowd shots, or the crowd is a little bit smaller. I think that we've heard from that on Reddit. I think there's been some people that are in the crowd that have been posting. But I hope things do pick up. Coming into day 3 and day 4, as we're sorting out any technical issues. Oh, shout out to I wasn't sure, but Icecar's there. Shout out to Icecar. But yeah, it looks like there are some technical issues that they're dealing with. Players are getting ready. Oh, the tension back, the tension. No, we're trying to zoom in on the in-game chat, the lobby chat. But looks like any issues that they had, looks like they hopefully have been resolved. Shout out to the admin team. I know, especially game one, there can be some teething issues, just because it's the first time that everyone has their setup going, and you know, sometimes there's like audio bugs. But everything's looking good. Oh, we're jumping in. Let's go. As we're jumping into game one, we're going to be loading into Maganatha. And this morning, in the bottom right-hand corner of Maganatha, we have the South Korean Protoss player. We have the red Protoss representing Virtus Pro. It is Classic, the current GSL champion. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have some. Obviously, we have the GSL runner-up. It is Rogue. Jeez, Jesus, just no time. They just go straight in. Of course, Rogue on Team Falcons, Classic on Virtus Pro. Here we go. So we are now finally jumping into our fresh best of 3, and if you're in the chat, you know what time it is. It is Gamma time. Predictions are open. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series. Best of luck in the chat as we jump into our best of 3. Let's go. And again, this is a rematch from the GSL finals. Classic did come out on top in said finals, but Rogue didn't go down without a fight. Rogue, he was able to make a series out of that. He did force the ace match. It was a very intense back and forth. I want to believe he can do so again. Let's go. Maybe even claim the series. So now Hashgas Pool standard opener out of Rogue. Likewise, Classic going for his own gate expand into Cybercore. So far, everything's looking normal. So far, everything's looking standard. As I mentioned previously, my eyes are mainly going to be on Rogue here when it comes to his tech of choice. Whether he goes for an earlier Roach Horn, whether he goes into an earlier Lair, whether he takes gases, whether he goes into an Eva Chamber earlier or not. Really, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for Eva Chamber, Roach Horn, or Lair. The timing of said tech structures that'll give us a sign as to how aggressive or how macro, how greedy Rogue plans on being. Likewise, Classic, we're expecting Stargate. Like Stargate open out of Classic, he may decide to go for an early Twilight Council before his third. If so, we will point that out. Otherwise, we're expecting standard play. But welcome, one and all, to Maganatha. Maganatha is the largest map in the map pool. True, it is a large map, but at the same time, it is not as defendable as Tokamak. What I mean by that is that the 3rd and 4th and 5th bases are a lot more spread out. They're a lot more spread out here on Maganatha, so even though the map is large, we have seen a lot of successful 3-base all-ins on Maganatha, just because of how spread out the bases are, just because of how open the 3rd and potential 4th bases can be on this map. So because of that, I'm like that's what I'm leaning towards here on this map. That's what I'm expecting out of Rogue, but we'll see. We shall see. Likewise, because the map is so large, something that I should also bring up if we go into a faster lair, Mutaplay, right? Mutaplay could suddenly become online as well. Going to Spire, going to Mutas is not unheard of on Maganatha. For now, Stargate open into the Oracle. So Oracle here from Classic, everything so far looking good. Ooh, gets into the mineral line, does pick off a drone. That was a late spore trick out of Rogue, and a nice start for Classic. Gets a drone, pulls away. Nothing major, but a nice start nonetheless. We can see Rogue expanding on the right-hand side, taking his triangular third. See in the chat. Suelten su gas, amiga. Sí, sí. Tira tu gas. Beautiful. As behind this, Classic going for 2 more gates. That I should point out. So that's going to be 2 more gateways before 3rd base. This is a much more aggressive follow-up here by Classic. He's not taking too quickly, but with the extra gateways, we'll have extra warpins, we'll have more adepts, and it can go for a more earlier, more surprising, more committed adept move out. as you don't expect this many gateways this quickly. So we're expecting more depth warp ins, but we'll keep an eye on Classic. Meanwhile, Eva Chamber First out of Rogue. Eva Chamber First typically is indicative of a +1 melee. You can see the observers pointing out the gateway, pointing out the gates. Oracles take a lot of hits, Queen's in position, and with that, Classic is deflected. Going for the stasis. Oh no! Oh, the Oracle does take extra damage and will barely get away. Meanwhile, across the map, Lings get us around on the Adepts. The Oracles are not him to defend. And 2 Adepts do go down. Nice pickoff here by Rogue. And there's that +1 melee. Now, typically, +1 melee is indicative that we're going to be skipping Roaches and going from Lings into Lair into laying a Hydra. That is typically the take of choice here for Rogue. Very mid-game oriented. So he's cutting corners. Because of that, if we had Glaive Adepts, then Rogue would be in trouble. But alas, no Twilight Council out of Classic. Warping in 3 Adepts at a time, and Classic he should soon move out. You can see he's fanning out towards the right-hand side with those extra Adepts. Behind this, we have the Forge, we have the Twilight Council going to +1 and what should be Blink. But Classic actually doesn't move out with those Adepts. He's staying back home. Interesting. I say staying back home, he's staying on his side of the map. Oh, he keeps him hidden. Okay, now he's pushing, and again, because of the earlier extra gateway that we pointed out earlier, we have more Adepts than usual. Yeah, this is much more Adepts than we're used to seeing. This is designed to catch Rogue off guard. Rogue at the same time does go for the Ling run by, does go for the counterattack, and probes are falling. Oracles are racing back home, probes are going to be going down, Adepts stay shading to the middle line, but alas, he does evacuate, does pull away just in time. Only 2? Well, oh my god. the probe drilling, Classic with the defense. Only losing 2 workers. And meanwhile, there's a full wall, but the Adepts trade well against the Zerglings. Lings are going down. Remember, these are vanilla Adepts, not Glaive Adepts, but they're still getting damage done. They pick off 2 more drones. They shade back into the middle line. Oh, they do cancel, but they trade well against the Zerglings regardless. And now going for stasis. The wall is open. Adepts, they do flood in, but Roach production has begun. Despite that, Roach is not quite in position. Headed for the mineral line. No major damage yet. Remember, there's no glaives. Like, this isn't too committed here from Classic. Not as much as it otherwise could have been. There we go. Does target fire. Gets 5, 6, 7 drone kills. Takes down 8. 8 drones go down. 8 drones. All those Zerglings. There we go. 40. Jesus. 44 Zerglings. Now, Rogue has a counterattack. And what do we have at him to defend? That's the real question here, because Classic, he has warp-ins. Okay, he has been warping in. He has an army, he has a shield battery, he should be okay. Should be able to hold his own. Warps in more Stalkers. Storm is in production. And the game will continue. And ideally, Classic, he wanted to do more critical damage. Thankfully, as 1 Oracle goes down, nice pickoff. Thankfully, Rogue was able to wall off in time and he was able to minimize losses. So Rogue, he's still very much so in this game, is taking up into a very fast Hive. Jesus. Okay, insanely fast Hive tech. Now, if you recall, I did mention something earlier about how Rogue was playing last year. I was talking about how Rogue, he was actually last year often going into fast Hive and into fast Lurkers. He had a very similar style to how he was playing against Terran. He was going into a much more greedy economic style and rushing into Lurker. Then when he got into Lurker tech, then he would play Nidus. He'd go Nidus Lurker and be very active with Lurker play. I'm curious, I mean, it feels like that's what we're headed towards here as well. Again, this is a style that has fallen by the wayside in recent times. It's been more difficult to pull this off, but I mean, Rogue is going for it. We'll see if he can get there though, because again, it's quite greedy. Classic moves out, back at home, he does defend. So Classic, does threaten a dive. Forcing units out of his opponent. Well, supply blocking Rogue, Jesus. Does get supply block. I mean, because Storm is ready here, that's a lot of storms. Rogue, he still can't make anything. As this around, base out 2 storms already. A better storm here on the main army, Jesus. Yeah, the storms are brutal, and Classic is punishing Rogue. Remember, Rogue, he's been cutting corners, rushing into Hive, rushing into Lurker tech, but he's not going to get away with it. The boys are being pulled. It's going to be a close hold. Arcos are morphing in, and they morph in just in time. I say that, they do get targeted down, but the roaches are gone. Hydras are exposed. And Classic, he's going for the kill. He's going for the kill, going for the throats. Rogue going for this more outdated style that we were referring to, how he played last year, but doesn't get away with it. He's trying to. That's 20 drone kills. 20 workers going down. Oh, he holds. Not bad. Does hold on, does survive. But, I mean, is he really living though? As we're still reinforcing. There's no proxy pylon, there's no war prism, so reinforcements take a long time to get across the map, but they're getting here. They're getting here nonetheless. Meanwhile, Classic, he throws down the Fleet Beacon, throws down the Stargate, getting ready for Sky Toss. Storm on the Queens. And GG gets called. He will overwhelm, and Classic, he will take game number 1. Whew, GG, well played. A cheeky build here by Classic. Winding it back here as a reminder, Classic, he did not have a standard opener. I mean, it was standard when it came to the opener itself, but the follow-up 3-gate. Before all of this, forget about this, he went for a 3-gate follow-up and he was hiding his adepts. Remember, he was hiding his adepts. He moved out, I want to say with like, what, 10, 12 adepts? It was a very unorthodox push, very unorthodox timing, and he did catch Rogue with his pants down. Didn't kill Rogue, but did do a good amount of damage, and it was in the aftermath of that that Rogue decided to be greedy. Remember, he was droning up heavily up to 80 workers. He teched up into Lurker, into Hive Tech, and we saw that Lurkers were being produced at the end of the game, but he didn't get there. He barely didn't get there in time, and Classic was able to break Rogue before he could embrace his Lurker tech. Again, Rogue was being so greedy, and he was punished for that greed. And this is also why this style has kind of fallen by the wayside, especially against players like Classic, players like Hero, these more aggressive Protoss players. It is difficult to be greedy like this, and it's difficult to get away with all this tech against the Korean Protosses. They see an opening, they'll abuse it. And here we go, we're now getting into our next game, getting into game 2, we're going to be loading into Tokamak. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Tokamak, we have the South Korean Protoss player. We have the Red Protoss for Virtus Pro, leading the series 1-0. It is Classic. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Tokamak, we have the South Korean Zerg player. It is Rogue for Team Falcons. God, they give him no time. Jesus. Let's go in. Jesus. Oh, and here we go. We're getting to game 2. Game 2 is going to be here on Tokamak, and I don't... when it comes to the build of choice from Rogue last game, I mean, I don't blame him. As I mentioned before, in the lead up to this series, we spoke about how, like, Classic, he's at his strongest in the late game, right? He's at his strongest there. Then we even saw at the end of that last game, he was taking up into Sky Toss. He had a Fleet Beacon all the way and the Stargate on the way. But if you remember, something that we tried to emphasize in the lead up to the series is that Classic, he's not a passive player. He's not like a Showtime. He's not a hyper defensive player. Even though Classic has, I would say, the best late game PvZ in the world, he doesn't always play to the late game. If he sees an opening, he will be aggressive, he'll be opportunistic, he'll be in your face, and he will end the game if he sees an opportunity to do so. And we saw that last game as well, where he was more aggressive. Even though he was more than happy and more than willing to tech up into Sky Toss, if he saw an opportunity, which he did, he went for it, right? He was aggressive, he was assertive. He was able to break Rogue ahead of time. So being greedy against Classic is a difficult thing to do. And Rogue, he finds out the hard way. Now we're getting into game 2. Game 2, we do have our standard openers, Hatch Gas Pool out of Rogue. Likewise, a Gate Expand out of Classic. Once again, our eyes are going to be open here to see if Rogue goes for another faster Evo Chamber into +1 melee, if he goes into a faster Lair, if he goes into a faster Roach Warren. So we'll see what tech Rogue goes for. Meanwhile, Classic does go for a Stargate opener, but the follow-up, does he go once again into a hidden third gateway? Does he go into a faster third base? Does he go into an earlier Twilight Council? Eyes are on Classic. Cool. Yo, shout to Draconics in the chat. Ese Draconics. Bienvenidos. caster Draconics. Oh my god. La Paloma. Another. Here we go. Oh, Phoenix first. Okay, this I was not. Never mind. Never mind. For a moment, he was going for a Phoenix first, and I was about to be like, Showtime, is that you? But no, it is going to be an Oracle first. So standard open out of Classic. He was flirting with the idea of being a little bit more spicy, but he thinks better of it, at least for the time being. Also, Shema in the chat. Shema. As I believe that is the second gateway on the way here for Classic, so far everything's still looking normal. I don't like the idea of Classic going for a third gate again. I don't think it's as necessary, or I don't think it's wise to go for the same build 2 games in a row. As the observer is pointing out, yep, only 1 extra gate. So 2 gate setup. A lot more tame, and there's a third. There is the third expansion. Everything normal from Classic. Meanwhile, we do have our Eva Chamber out of Rogue. Once again, looking to go into +1 melee, looking to go into Ling Hydra. So we have the same opener out of Rogue. Meanwhile, this time Classic is being more economic and less aggressive. Despite that, he still gets a couple of drone kills. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 drones going down. Did I say 3 getting it to 5? Meanwhile, Lings, they attempt to harass across the map, but there are Adepts at home to defend as well. So Classic, he defends, he attacks, 5 drone kills, ay. 5, 6 drones going down. And Classic's looking very comfortable here. It does get cornered though, and he will lose one of the Oracles. Yeah, 1 Oracle goes down, nice pickoff. Suddenly Rogue does have more of a back and forth. Meanwhile, more Lings, they get across the map, they get a surround here. 1, 2, 3 Adepts gonna be falling. Nice run by Rogue. Takes down the Adepts, now going for the shield battery. Nice damage. And Rogue is not taking this line down. Not taking this line down. Oh, we do have a Baneling Nest on the way. Interesting. Meanwhile, we assumed it was going to be +1 in Blink. That's +1 in Charge. Classic is going for a much earlier charge timing, which could hit like a truck, but as we can see, Rogue is being safe. He throws in a Baneling Nest. Typically, we do see Ling into Hydra. This is not Ling Hydra, this is Ling Bane Hydra instead. So this is a little bit less efficient just because it's a little bit more gas intensive. So there's less gas for Hydras and less gas for a Tech and less gas for a Hive, for example. But here, this is a safer follow-up out of Rogue. He will have the tools to defend. Because this is going to hit like a truck, but Rogue, he might be able to deal with it, depending on his setup. As again, you don't actually open charge in this matchup unless you plan on hitting that charge timing. Yeah, 5 more gates on the way. I believe that's going to be a 10 gate setup, either 9 or 10. It's a lot of gateways. Jesus, I think that's at least 10 gates. Yeah, now going to the player cam. The one thing we're missing is to set up a proxy gateway across the map. We have the robo, so we can just get into a War Prism. Classic building a more Head Templar, gathering up that energy for storms. Things they attempt to run by, they attempt to harass. Keeping tabs on the main army. High Templar still being kept hidden. And I'm curious to see if Rogue already has his Hydra Den and how many Hydras he has. Likewise, if he's pre-morphed in any Banelings either. As the low Lings are going down. And Classic, he will soon push. Here he comes. Okay, Hydra Den is done. We have Hydra Speed just now starting. Looks like Rogue has no Banelings. Ooh, looks like no Banelings for Rogue. He's gonna have to reactively morph them in. Now, as Classic moves out, the Lings, they move in. The Oracle will defend. And Rogue, he's in danger. There we go. 8 Banelings on the way. 14. Okay, 14 Banelings. That will be enough. But it still comes down to the engage. Still comes down to how he does approach. As you can see here, yep, 10 gates, as we did call earlier. Yeah, we can count. We can... As 2 Banelings do connect. Nice connections. Again, all it takes is a couple of Banelings to make it through. As Classic rotates. Does threaten the storm in the mineral line. No major damage though. Rogue, he holds. And Rogue does hold, Rogue does defend. Basically, for Classic, as soon as he saw the Banelings, he backed up. Remember, it is not uncommon for Zerg players to skip the Baneling nest. Oh no, nice Templar! No! Oh my god, tries to get away. The Banelings, they crash in, they get 1, they get 2, they get 3. Massive pickoffs. And Rogue can go for the kill. Yeah, he can go for the kill, he can go for the throats. Classic, he was blindly hoping that there would be no Banelings across the map. Once they were revealed, he had to get the hell out of there. And Rogue, he holds. He holds, he defends, he trades well. And now he's taking up into Hive. He has the hybrid expansion. And Rogue is in the driver's seat, is looking very comfortable here. From here, he can actually embrace Lurker tech. Get into Hydra Lurker Viper. Again, this was just a really big gamble out of Classic. Did not pay off. And now he's on the back foot. Now Classic is forced to defend, forced to be stuck at home. And from here he has to turtle. Like Classic, he has to turtle up. And Rogue, he should be gaining map control, not just gaining map control. He should be containing his opponent on 4 bases for as long as he can while he maxes out. Nice baiting run by, does up. Get into the middle line, 8 probes go down. Likewise, oh my god, denies the warp in. And then Classic, he's on the back foot, his timing failed. Did fall in its face. Now, coming into this kind of game state, Rogue has to be so careful because, on the one hand, he's ahead, he's in a better position, even snipes a Prism here. Will soon embrace Lurkers, but he has to be careful not to take some rough fights. Remember, like, there's no need for him to push into these bases. He doesn't need to. He is max, so I'm sure he wants to trade, but he has to be so careful with these trades. Doesn't want to throw away too much. Banelings to roll into the mineral line. Classic, he pulls away in time, he does defend. Nice defense by Classic. Cannons are finishing, miss rally! Ooh, does miss rally into the army. Throws away the Immortal. And the Hive is about to finish. Lurkers are morphing in. At this point, it wouldn't be opposed to Aspire just to work on some upgrades eventually. I do appreciate that Rogue, he's not neglecting his Lurkers. 11 Lurkers on the way. Speaking of neglect, I don't see any upgrades here, whether it's +3, whether it's Adrenal. I believe Rogue is working on it. He's working on it so far. He does keep up with the Prism, does earn it away. I would love to see the production tab just to know what upgrades are being researched, if any. I'm pretty sure they are. Like, I saw the gas being spent. Yeah, Adrenal. So it's Adrenal and Lurker upgrades. Ooh, as Lean Bane does make a pass, somehow, some way, slips into the natural. Does try to, but never mind. Classic, he shuts it down. Nice defense. Nice defense out of Classic. So this is a concern in my mind, is that Rogue, he never started +3. He has been neglecting his Evo Chamber upgrades. That may factor in. As Lurkers are moving forward, Classic, he ignores the Lurkers. He sends it right across the map. A brutal position for Classic. He cannot push through the center. Zelt's the main, but the Prism is going to be targeted down. Denies the warp in. Yeah, Rogue is just all over Classic, and he's pulling him apart. Tempest production has begun. Classic out of position. He's out on the map. He's not at home. And Rogue is moving in. Takes out the Nexus. Classic coming in for the surround. He should clean up this army, but not without losing the Nexus. And the base goes down. And economically, Classic is hurting. On the one hand, yes, Classic, he reset the lurker count for the most part. He shut down most of them. But Rogue, he could afford those trades, is the problem. Rogue, he has a massive economy. He can afford those losses. Classic cannot. So Rogue should be the first to remax. And this is an uphill battle here for Classic. Not impossible, but is very much so uphill. If Classic can stabilize on 4 bases, and if he can max out, then he has a chance in this game. That's a big if there. Yeah, as Rogue, he does counterattack, does hit the natural, forcing his way in. Classic, once again, he's out of position. I mean, he just barely has an army to work with, so the supply just isn't there. Nice storms, though. Very nice storms. And a head-on fight, he can take it. Takes out a lot of Hydras. As Rogue does start step into the main. But again, Rogue, he throws away a lot of his army. Lurkers get behind the mineral lines. 20 probes going down. Now, there's a couple of things happening here. On the one hand, Rogue, he kills a bunch of workers, which is nice, but at the same time, the main army here for Classic is terrifying. And he can still win a fight. Still win a head-on fight. He can still threaten Rogue. So Rogue, he's got to respect it. Setting up for the surround. It's a lot of storms, but there's not much support. And here we go. Lurkers move in. They want the High Templar. Templar go down. Massive pickoffs. And Rogue, he will dominate this fight. And with that, he's done at this point. I mean, again, as we mentioned, for the past, what, 8-9 minutes, it's been an uphill battle for Classic. It's been just a really, really rough start for the Protoss. Has been playing from behind almost the entire game. And here comes Rogue. His anti-air is limited, so he can't really deal with the Tempest too easily, but he doesn't really need to. Does rotate. Takes down the side defense. He's got a couple of Corruptors. Lurkers on the top side as well. And the base is under fire. Yeah, the bases are going to be going down. Takes down that southern Nexus. And it's sinking in here for Classic. Again, he's the one that did take the risk. Took the chance. It wasn't worth it. And Rogue is moving in. Does move in. GG gets called. He breaks that third, and Rogue ties up the series 1-1. We are going to the ace match. Whew. GG. We're going to game 3. Again, it was a very risky build here from Classic. Winding it back, if you remember, what did Classic do? He went for a standard opener into what? Into charge. He went for an early charge timing attack with Storm. Very committed build. And as we were mentioning, he was hoping, he was praying that just like in game 1, that Rogue would skip Banelings. He was hoping that he would skip Banelings, and we saw that Classic was so committed he moved out. Once he saw there were Banelings, he had to back off. He had to retreat. The push failed, the timing failed, And from there, Rogue, he snowballed out of control. He was able to counterattack. He was able to get economic damage and tech up and out-tech his opponent. Just being able to outscale him over time. GG. GG, well played. Again, it was a cheeky build by Classic. Wasn't worth it. Wasn't worth it in the end. He did fall behind quite hard. And I can't imagine we're going to be seeing another charge build again. It's not going to happen. No shot. Not in Game 3. So we expect Classic to calm down coming into Game 3 and go for a more standard build. But we'll see, as Game 3 is going to be on Incorporeal. Oh boy. Again, a map that does have a lot of aggressive potential. Oh, as we have the map intro for the first time. I'm loving the mist, the fog. That's for the first time here tonight. We're featuring Incorporeal. Let's go. In the bottom right hand corner, we have our South Korean Protoss player. We have the red Protoss for Virtus Pro being forced into the ace match. It is a Classic. And spawning in the top left hand corner of Incorporeal, we have the South Korean Zerg player. The blue Zerg it is for Team Falcons, Rogue. Here we go. As our ZvP does continue. And again, Classic's been going for some very interesting builds so far. Game 1, we saw the Stargate opener into 3 gates follow-up with Adept Pressure and Adept Aggression. Here in Game 2, we saw Classic be cheeky, going into +1 and Charge, not into Blink, and going for a Charge Storm timing instead, which should fall on its face. Here, we're expecting to see something more standard out of Classic, but we'll see. As he has been mixing it up. Meanwhile, Rogue, he has been more so reacting to his opponent more than anything, or at least attempting to react. We did mention earlier that he blindly kind of played safe and went into a Baneliness, and again, with that, he was able to shut down the charge timing and the charge aggression. It worked out well for Rogue. So we'll see if he goes for another Baneliness here, we'll see if he goes into Roaches. There are other ways to open up. We'll see if he plays it safe again. So now we have our Hatch Gas Pool out of Rogue. Likewise, we have our Gate expanded to Cybercore out of Classic. Stargate is on the way. As to be expected. Stargate into Oracle. It's the follow-up that we're really looking for. As every game so far, Rogue has opened up Evo Chamber into +1. True. Oh, as we saw this last game, we saw Classic flirt with the idea. Does open Phoenix. Okay. Phoenix opener out of Classic. Yo, we got the kind of picture-in-picture. We got the monitor cams. Let's go. I love how they have the EWC logo like stickered over the logo of the monitor itself. To cover it up. As the first Overlord is going to go down. Well, Rogue's still just joining up, moving out with his links to counterattack. Remember, because of the Phoenix opener, that means that the Oracle is going to be delayed. That means it's going to be less Oracles to defend back at home to protect the third. So Rogue is hoping to find some damage. Does hit the natural, sorry, does hit the third base, but the Oracle does come out in time to defend. Come out in time. can see Rogue was trying to bait out the Pulsar Beam of the Oracle, but Classic did not take the bait. Once again, Eva Chamber first out of Rogue, so he's going into +1 melee. Does he go for Banelings or not? Yet to be determined. The monitor maker did not pay for product placement. If only we had Pepsi monitors. Where are the Pepsi monitors? As the Oracle does hit the third, getting a couple of drone kills. Only a couple. There's that melee upgrade on the way that we did mention. Once again, it should be Ling Hydra. Whether or not we see Banelings, we'll still see if Rogue does throw it down. As there's the lair. So it looks like this time Rogue, he's skipping Banelings. And again, like, this is what Classic was hoping for last game. Like, that's why he went into Charge. If your opponent skips Banelings, like we're seeing here, that's where Charge can excel. So our players, they gamble a little bit. So we see that Classic this time is going for a standard follow-up. He's going +1 and Blink. Meanwhile, Rogue, he skips Banelings and gets away with it. Stasis goes off. Meanwhile, we do have 6Fs moving out across the map. They do get into the natural, but nice round with the Lings. Yeah, they surround, they force the recall, and Rogue holds. Rogue, he defends back at home. Classic backing off. Working towards Storm. I kind of want to see a Pepsi bottle with the logo plastered over with the EWC look. Oh no. Not like this. I mean, if you remember, that was happening, God, a couple of years ago. I want to say, was it in GSL? Or was it during some of the Dream Hacks where they had a different sponsor and they had to drink out of... I think it might have been Mountain Dew, where they had like Mountain Dew like tumblers, and they would put water in there and then they drink from that. Might have been when Mountain Dew was sponsoring GSL. But they had to put their water into other containers and drink from that. Aye. It happens, it happens. For now though, we do see Rogue fanning out towards the bases, but Classic is looking pretty secure. Now we can embrace a longer and later game. Rogue going to Ling Hydra, but we do have a faster Spire. Cheeky move out of Rogue, so he's still going into Ling Hydra. The Spire should be for a handful of muses just to harass across the map. We'll see how hard he commits. And we'll see if he gets scouted. As so far, Classic has no idea. Does have that one Blind Phoenix, of course, which will help, but it's just the one Phoenix. Yeah, +1 range is on the way. The upgrades do tell us that Rogue, he doesn't really intend to commit into mass muta. That's not the intention so far. Remember when Hot 6 was all in StarCraft? I remember. Let's go. Let's go. I remember when they chugged Hot 6s. When they won. I said that. I remember when they showered innovation in Hot 6. That was that was peak StarCraft. GSTL Season 2 2023 Finals, mate. That was peak StarCraft. Where the Axiom boys, they all came out with their cans. It's beautiful. For now, though, it is going to be a mutas coming out from Rogue. That is more than enough to one-shot workers. But again, only to harass. So far, kept completely hidden. And Classic is fully walling up. We have 4 cannons on the way, shield batteries as well. Classic does have a safety cannon to buy some time. Does go for the defensive warp in. And so far, the Stalkers are keeping up, and they shut down the mutas. Yeah, 1, 2 mutas going down. Mutas, they do get at least the Oracle. At the same time, the main army is going to be deflected, and so far, Classic is holding well. Again, Classic is just taking a full defensive stance. on his 4 bases, and we were emphasizing at the start of this series as well, talking about how certain maps like Maganatha and Incorporeal are more difficult to defend. They are large maps, that is true, they are larger maps, but the 3rd and 4th bases are a lot more open, a lot more wide open to aggression, and it can be a lot more difficult to defend, so you have to invest into all these cannons and shield batteries. It takes a lot more to turtle up on these bases. And now we can see Classic, Stargate, Fleet Beacon, we're going for Sky Toss. We saw Classic try to work towards this in both Game 1 and Game 2, but here in Game 3, we might actually get a proper late game. We haven't really gotten there yet. Like, we got into a couple of Tempests in Game 2, and we got into Lurker Tech as well, but by no means was it a back and forth. It was Classic, like, struggling to keep his head above water for like 8 minutes, before eventually just succumbing. Here, it's a little closer. Again, the soup does lie. Rogue, he's maxed out, but bearing in mind the Classic has a lot of cannons and shield batteries. Like, he has a lot of defensive setup here that does help him, that does support his army. So a lot of this comes down to the storms, comes down to the engage. Muse, they're diving on the High Templar. They get 1, they get 2, they get 3. 3 High Templar go down with still a couple of storms left over. And a couple of storms left. And storms, they graze the army. We get some connections on the Banelings. And Classic, it's going to be close. We'll see if he can hold on. Rogue, he's running out of Banelings. Yeah, he is running out. Hydras are exposed, and Rogue holds. Sorry, I should say Classic holds. Classic, he holds. He shuts down the Hydras. The storms are brutal, and Rogue, he plummets in supply. He has to get the hell out of here. He barely escapes with anything. Now, I'm not convinced by Classic's counterattack. I'm okay with him denying creep, but pushing any further than that is risky. You can see Classic, he pulls away. Classic, he pulls away, he pulls back home. Again, assault defense of the Classic, and now when he remaxes, he can rebuild and remax with Sky Toss. Ooh, but Lings, they do flood into the main. They're going for +3, and it looks like they can get a kill. There they will. They snipe the Forge. Very nice pick off. +3 is denied. Prism into the main base. Gonna get caught out. Does pull away in time. Oh, not even. Barely not. So Rogue, he does defend back at home. Likewise, so does Classic. The game will continue. The game will progress. Now, when it comes to Classic's 5th base, that's going to be a difficult base to expand to. We spoke earlier how spread out, how open these bases are. It gets even worse as the game progresses. The 5th base, the 6th base, they're so spread out. I'll be impressed if Classic can hold on to them. If he can get a 5th. And now he's slowly rebuilding. So is Rogue. And a lot of this should come down to the 5th. It should come down to whether or not Rogue can deny the expansion. As Classic is expanding. And Rogue is moving in with his Zerglings. Does move in, runs into carriers. Ooh, nice target firing. Just focus on 2 of those lurkers. Rogue does overextend. At the same time, he's pushing towards the left-hand side. At the same time, Zelse do dive in towards that fringe base. They get the expansion. Hatchery goes down. Lurkers, they're pushing into the natural. They're knocking down that front door. Ooh, and Classic is being pulled apart. And this is what's important. The 5th. The 5th is cancelled. That's what's important. No expansion. No economy. Ooh, but that's an expensive loss for Rogue because he will lose every single lurker here. We are lacking detection. But there we go. The Observer comes in. And these lurkers are going to go down. And this, I'm not sure if it was worth it here. That was, what, 8 lurkers? And Rogue, he might lose even more. And sure, he was able to deny an expansion, but he lost so much in the process. As the lurker count is almost completely reset. Yeah, there it is, 11 lurkers going down. Now Classic can expand. Might be thinking, but oh, there's Sky Toss. So do we even need lurkers? The answer is yes. Because even though we do refer to it as Sky Toss, it's not purely a Sky Toss army. It's Carrier, it's Tempest, it's Mothership, true, but also Archons, High Templar, Immortals. There is typically ground support when it comes to the ideal late game Protoss army. You need those lurkers. It isn't just pure Carrier or Tempest. Without that ground support, then this army can get out of hand. So Rogue has to rebuild those lurkers. And they are building back up. Building back up. Classic's army is getting a bit out of hand. We do have corrupted production from Rogue. Nice thing, run by. Gets 1, 2, 3 cannons. 4 cannons even. A lot of stack defense going down. Plus 3 air attackers on the way for Rogue. He's been on top of his upgrades. He's been on point. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not too fond of Mass Carrier here. I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't built any Tempests. Tempests are more efficient. They have longer range. They can, again, they can just be more efficient. They can have better trades. Carriers, what's dangerous about carriers is they have to get closer to your opponents. Likewise, they're not as ideal against Corruptors or Lurkers. Like, their range can be a big hindrance to them. But, I mean, it is going to be Critical Mass Carrier, so it may work anyway. He's got 9 carriers. We'll see if he can brute force his way through. Likewise, this army is also vulnerable to parasitic bombs. If you can take over the ground army, then you can go for the mass power bomb, then stack on top of the carrier, for example. Storms popping up. Corruptors are coming in. Storms, they attempt to zone. Yeah, mass power bomb here on the army. But there's still Archons on the ground. Yeah, Corruptors, they barely break through. They shut down the Interceptors. But there's too much on the ground. Yeah, there's too much on the ground. Another Storm connects. Another Archon connects as well. Resets the Corruptor count. And Classic holds. Yeah, Classic, he takes the fight. The carriers are getting low, but the ground army did punish the Corruptors. And that was an expensive loss for Rogue. And Classic is running away with this. You can see how many High Templars survived as well. There's what, 5, 6 High Templar on the ground? So many Templars survived. And with that, Classic has plenty of Storms. Rogue is in a rough position. He's rebuilding his army. He has an economy, that is true, but the army just isn't really there. The quality, I mean. Speaking of the army not being there, Classic out of position. He will lose the 5th. Trading a base for a base. Yeah, he's pushing in. Classic is going for the kill. Bearing in mind he can always recall if he needs to. And he does not need to. Because sure, he will lose 1 Nexus, but he will take down 2 hatcheries. 2 hatcheries go down. And he can try to keep pushing. At the same time, Rogue, he rotates towards the left-hand side. It does hit the mineral line. Classic does turn around this time. And he'll be forced to cancel. Oof. No expansion for Classic. Thanks to Burrow. Now, on the one hand, Classic does have a superior army, and I believe that Classic, if they do fight head-on, Classic will win this. He will win this fight. But if Rogue can avoid the main fight, if he can backstab, if he can counterattack, if he can keep forcing Classic to turn back around and deny the 5th base, then Rogue can, over time, rebuild his economy and snowball out of control. It's possible. The scary thing, though, is that Rogue is also stuck on 4 bases. It's 4 base versus 4 base, and Rogue doesn't have a bank. Ideally, in ZvP, as a Zerg player, you do want the bank over your opponents because your army is just more inefficient, right? Like, the Zerg army is just more inefficient. It's more fragile. You need that bank. Without it, Rogue, he cannot stand his ground. Abduction Archon. Trying to keep up with these rotations with the army movement. Nice slow zone. Oof. Yeah, the storms are brutal. Oh, the storms! Jesus! The storms, they punish the hydras, they punish the lurkers. Corruptors, they go in for one last-ditch effort, but Classic, he will overwhelm. GG gets called as Classic. He will take the series 2-1, advancing on to a qualifying match. GG. Whew. GG, well played. Again, a much more comfortable game here for Classic. We saw Classic have some fun in this series, both in Game 1 and in Game 2, going for some cheeky builds. We saw Rogue was able to shut Classic down in Game 2, but here in Game 3, Classic, he was doing what he does best. And what was that? Defend, turtle up back at home on 3 and 4 bases. On the one hand, yes, we saw that Rogue did go into muta play to harass, but the mutas, they did not pay for themselves, and we saw that Rogue was ramming his face against the brick wall that was Classic, and Classic able to take better and better fights on his side of the map. We saw that Rogue was able to deny the 5th base. True, he denied the 5th, but the 5th doesn't matter because a Protoss can max out on 4 bases. He can max out on 4 bases, especially if he's trading more efficiently and if he's preserving those high-tech units, the carriers and the High Templar after each fight. So some stronger engagements out of Classic, and Rogue, he just could not break the defensive line
very much,
of
gentlemen.
Classic.
I'm here with Classic and with Maddox to provide translations. Of course, Classic, the reigning GSL Season 2 champion. And it was a beautiful rematch, honestly, on the SNB arena. Congratulations, first of all, on the win. And I want to throw it back to game number 1 at the very early stage. You tried an Adept push. Rogue defended very well, but then you instantly came up with another Stalker push after that. How were you able to run it back so quickly?
이제 1세트 경기 승리 축하드리고요, 김도우 선수. 일단은 저희 첫 번째 질문 1세트로 좀 돌아가 볼게요. 1세트 때 일단은 사도 푸시를 했는데 그래도 이병현 선수가 어느 정도 잘 막아냈는데 그 이후에 바로 다시 전멸 추적자 푸시를 가서 또 경기를 끝내는 데 성공을 하셨어요. 좀 어떻게 좀 그렇게 경기를 끝내실 수 있었는지 궁금합니다.
우선 사도로 그래도 피해를 어느 정도 줬었고 상대가 사도를 맞고 나서 이제 올 게 없을 거라고 생각하고 좀 배를 불린다라고 생각을 해가지고 그 타이밍에 가면 좀 뚫을 수 있겠다라는 생각을 가지고 있었고 생각대로 잘 됐던 것 같습니다.
Yeah, so I did pretty good damage onto the Zerg. So, and that being said, he wouldn't have anything to counter, so he might go greedy. So I think that would be a greatest time to push.
Well, it was a beautifully timed counterattack. I want to say very well played from you throughout the series. Now I want to ask you, when it comes to the preparations, because this was a GSL Season 2 Finals rematch essentially, how did you prepare for this matchup against Rogue?
이제 또 이게
I think,
GSL 시즌 2
very quickly, I think a better question for Game 1 would have been, how did Classic, was he aware that Rogue was being greedy? He's referring to Game 1 where Classic went for Adept Aggression, which did do a lot of damage, and then he went for a follow-up push as Rogue was being greedy and taking up. The answer made it sound like Classic actually didn't know if he was or wasn't. He was kind of gambling a little bit. That's what the answer makes it sound like.
정말 열심히 준비를 했습니다.
Yeah, the preparation wasn't easy because there's a lot of Zerg players in my group, so I didn't have much practice partners. So that being said, I prepared a lot to face against him because he's a very good and very solid player. So tried my best to prepare against him.
I mean, speaking of Zerg players, your next matchup, it is going to be against Cyril. So
let's
it is
go.
going to be against yet again a DreamHack Dallas rematch. So talk to me. How are you going to prepare for that one?
이제 마침 또 저거 선수들 얘기 나와서 그런데 다음 상대가 또 이제 델러스에서 맞붙었던 세레 선수인데
I would have loved something a little bit more.
하시는지 궁금합니다.
달라스에서도 굉장히 힘들게 이겼고
A question with a little bit more flair.
저그 선수 중에 최고기 때문에
Like, you already beat Cyril once at DreamHack Dallas. How are you feeling coming into the rematch?
최근에 제가 이겼던 경험이 있기 때문에 충분히 이길 수 있다라고 생각을 하고
Easy.
열심히 준비해서 내일 꼭 이겨보도록 하겠습니다.
Obviously, favorite player.
Yeah, obviously
Cap.
he's one of the greatest players, and it was very hard to win against him in Dallas as well. So, with that being said, I won against him, so I will try my best to repeat it.
I mean, you've done it before. Let's see if you can do it again. But that is a wrap for, of course, Classic 4. Now, we still have one more match to wrap up day number 1 of the StarCraft tournament here at the Esports World Cup. Thank you very much, Maddox. Thank you very much, Classic. We're going to head on over with our final match. But first, back to the studio.
Likewise, I would have loved a question about game 2. I would have loved to have asked Classic. So again, we got an idea that when it came to Classic's follow-up push and pressure here in game number 1, he was kind of gambling a little bit and maybe hoping that his opponent would be being greedy, and this is the push that they're referring to, where Classic hit just before Lurkers. He hit just before Lurkers, just before Hive upgrades kicked in, and he was able to end the game here and now before Lurker Tech. I would have loved to have heard about game 1, about like the decision to go into a charge timing, and if he was just like full gambling and just sending it across the map, and just like, and whether there was any sign about whether or not there would be banelings, how that affected him and affected his decision, and affected his mindset coming into here the ace match. The ace match did feel a little bit more comfortable for Classic, even though he was stuck defending. Like this is where he like thrives really. Like he was so well set up with all these cannons and shield batteries. Like Rogue was trying his best to break his opponents. I do think that this was still okay for Rogue, but if you remember, it was right after this. It looks like they won't show it here on stream. But it was right after that attack where Rogue sent all of his lurkers in between the bases, and he lost, what was it, 9 to 10 lurkers. He lost them all. Like it was a brutal moment, and that's when everything swung in favor of Classic, when the lurker count was reset. That's when we went on our little like tangent talking about the importance of lurkers and the importance of an anti-ground army against a late game ZvP army or a late game Protoss army. And yeah, everything just kind of went in favor of Classic. GG, well played, congratulations. With that, we have one series left, one series remaining here in tonight's broadcast. Up next is going to be Showtime versus Cure. Let's go. One series left. There better be a clip of that. If you're referring to the GSTL ceremony, yes, there are clips of that out there in the internet. Good times. But again, a really good showing here by Classic. Once again, it was showing that he was willing to take some risks, take some chances, gamble a little bit in this series. I would say a little bit unnecessarily so. I don't think he needed to take as many risks as he did, but you know, willing to do so nonetheless. Always a risk to do whenever it's a best of 3. But now we're getting ready for the remainder of the broadcast. Oh, looks like we have a bit of a highlight reel here for Cyril versus Hero Marine. Looks like they had a game 2 on Tokamak. A bit of a longer back and forth. Looks like Cyril was able to get into his own Ultra Tech. It never well. And Cyril took the 2-0. Yeah, took the 2-0. Again, that was over on the B stream. Oh, there's some fans in the Let's go. Really cool to see some people traveling over to Riyadh. I think so far that's the only player we've seen do some signings there for the viewers. But looks like we have our updates here for the group, and again we have our next lineup here of matches. Classic takes down Rogue 2-1, Cyril takes down Gabe 2-0, and we have the upper portion. We have Showtime versus Cure and Hero versus Lancer, aka Cyan. And again, the B stream, they're going to be covering the PvP between Hero and Lancer, or Hero and Cyan. We will be covering Showtime versus Cure. Oh boy, that's going to be an interesting one here. We were giving a lot of praise to Showtime in the lead up to EWC, how he's been playing so much and achieving so many accolades. We've seen Showtime get better and better results against Bjorn, but Cure is a very different kind of player. Cure, unlike Bjorn, is a lot more willing to go for 2 base all-ins, a lot more willing to be in your face. It's going to be an interesting dynamic here between a more defensive player like Showtime and I would say a much more aggressive player in Cure.
I am here with a heartwarming report from the B stream and the B stage, as we have a lot of Chinese fans that have shown up to support Cyan in his journey.
Oh, they're supporting Cyan. Let's go. Oh, there he is, JDG. But really cool to see that they traveled over to cheer for him. You know, there's Showtime and Cure. As I believe from here, we're going to be going on a break. So we're going to be going on a short break. When we come back, we'll have the final series of the broadcast. We'll have Showtime and Cure going at it. We'll see you soon after the break.